Welcome to Storycraft Portal, where every tale is more than just words. It's a journey into the soul of human courage and sacrifice. Today's story takes us to the deadly heights of K2, known as the Savage Mountain, where in 1953, American climber Art Gilkey faced a tragic fate that still echoes in mountaineering history. Severely ill with blood clots and unable to walk, Art was being carried down by his team when disaster struck. An avalanche nearly killed them all. Amid the chaos, Art's sled mysteriously disappeared into the snow. Some believe it was an accident. Others think he let go on purpose to save his friends. In this gripping blend of heroism and horror, we uncover the haunting truth of a man who may have chosen death to give others a chance at life. This is not just a K2 death story. It's a real survival tale buried under layers of ice, fear, and ultimate sacrifice. A mountaineering tragedy that will chill you to your core. The year was 1953. A group of American climbers stood at the foot of the most feared peak on Earth, K2, the Savage Mountain. Among them was geologist Art Gilkey, a quiet, intelligent soul with a burning desire to conquer what so few dared to dream. The sky was deceptively calm, as if hiding the wrath above. From the very first step, every breath was thinner, every gust colder, and every heartbeat louder. With snow crunching underfoot and ice daggers above, they climbed, rope by rope, step by step, knowing that this mountain had claimed many before them. But Art wasn't just here to summit. He wanted to bring back knowledge, maps, and meaning. What none of them knew was that fate had already drawn the end of his chapter. And it wouldn't be the mountain's height that would kill him. It would be what was hiding inside him. The higher they went, the less human the world felt. Oxygen thinned to a whisper, winds screamed like banshees, and every breath became a battle. Art Gilkey remained composed, masking fatigue behind silent observation. But his legs began cramping, a slow burn creeping through his calves and thighs. His teammates dismissed it as altitude strain, common, temporary. But Art knew something wasn't right. The pain worsened. Still, he pushed forward. K2, unforgiving as ever, watched in silence. The team battled sheer ice walls, anchored only by rusting pins and frayed hope. Nights were brutal, frostbitten fingers, frozen boots, sleepless minds. On the fourth night, Art collapsed outside his tent. They dragged him in, checked his pulse, still strong, but something sinister was growing inside. The realization was unspoken, yet heavy. Art might not descend with them, and the mountain wasn't going to wait for their decision. Morning came with a cruel gift. Art couldn't move his legs. His voice was weak, his face ghost white. They feared frostbite, but the truth was worse. Thrombophlebitis, a dangerous blood clot condition. It meant death if not treated. And on K2, there were no doctors, no rescue helicopters, no second chances. The team panicked quietly. Descent was their only option. But how do you drag a dying man down the world's most dangerous slopes? Still, they decided, no one is left behind. They created a sled from rope and tarp, tied Art to it, and began lowering him down ridge by ridge. Each step was a war, with the mountain, with gravity, with time. Clouds thickened, snow began to fall, and as Art faded in and out of consciousness, a single question echoed in every heart. Could he survive what even the strongest couldn't? The descent was slow and unforgiving. Every ridge crossed was earned in sweat, frost, and bruises. Then came shoulder camp, a narrow plateau perched above doom. As the team set anchors to lower Art again, the sky growled. A sudden shift, and the snow broke loose. Avalanche. The entire slope roared alive. Ropes snapped, bodies slammed into ice. The team screamed, flailed, fought to live. When the chaos settled, they were all alive by miracle. But in the blizzard of white, one thing was gone: Art's sled. At first, they thought he'd been pulled away by force. But the rope was intact. It had been untied. Silence fell among them. Did he let go? Sacrifice himself to save the team from being slowed, from dying with him? No one said it, but everyone knew. Art was gone. and he chose it. The mountain was quiet now. The wind whistled low, almost mournful. They scoured the slope for hours, shouting Art's name into the white void. Nothing answered. No movement, no trail, just silence. Some cried quietly, others sat frozen. One climber placed a glove on a rock, the only offering they could give. They descended, slower now, their strength cracked, their hearts hollow. Art's sacrifice became legend before they even reached base camp. He had no grave, but his story would outlive them all. K2 had taken him, not through failure but through choice. And deep within that ice-covered graveyard, his memory lingered like mist, heavy, silent, eternal. They returned to the world with frostbitten limbs, empty tents, and a name that would never melt away from mountaineering history. Gilkey wasn't just a victim of the mountain. He became part of it. Each step down the mountain was heavier than the last, not because of altitude or exhaustion, but because of absence. Art Gilkey's silence haunted every gust of wind. His sled had vanished, and so had a part of the team's soul. Conversations died. Meals went untouched. They descended with guilt stitched into every frozen breath. Some blamed themselves, others blamed the mountain, but none said a word. At Camp 3, they found Art's journal, dry, folded inside his gear. The last entry was dated the night before the avalanche. "If I don't make it, tell my family I climbed for truth, not glory." Tears froze before they fell. That single line broke them more than the mountain ever could. K2 hadn't just claimed a climber. It stole a brother, a dreamer, a man whose courage ran deeper than the crevasses he crossed. But they weren't done climbing. They were still alive, and the mountain wasn't finished with them. 2 days later, the storm came. The descent halted. Tents were torn. Food supplies thinned. Fingers blackened from frostbite. One climber passed out from hypothermia. Another began hallucinating, swearing he saw Art walking just beyond the ridge. The mountain was playing with them now, testing what was left of their minds. At 23,000 feet, death was more than a threat. It was a presence. It didn't strike with thunder. It watched silently, waiting for weakness. Morale shattered. Survival wasn't guaranteed anymore. Arguments broke out over direction, rations, who would lead. Their unity, once held by ropes and hope, frayed like their gear. One climber suggested burying the journal, to leave Art's story on the mountain. Another refused. We must carry him home. In that frostbitten chaos, a choice had to be made. Stay and risk death, or climb blindly through the storm. They chose to move. There was no other option. Wrapped in shredded layers and desperation, they pushed through wide-out conditions with zero visibility. Snow-bitten the skin like needles. One step, then another, then a fall. A climber slipped, dangling over a crevasse before being hauled back. Screams turned into silence again. Time stretched into delirium. Direction became guesswork. Compass needles spun for magnetic chaos. But somehow, driven by what little strength remained, they reached Camp 2. It was barely standing, but it was shelter. Inside, they collapsed beside each other like broken bones. No one spoke of Art that night. Not out of forgetfulness, but respect. His sacrifice had carried them this far. Now, they had to survive to carry it further. K2's cold grip had loosened, but the descent was far from over. Camp I came into view like a ghost, familiar but distant. One climber limped with a makeshift splint. Another coughed blood. They were no longer a climbing team. They were survivors dragging shattered bodies home. The journal never left their side. As they neared base camp, snow melted slightly, and for the first time, they saw Earth again. One climber dropped to his knees and cried. Not out of weakness, but release. The radio crackled. They were heard. Help awaited at base camp, but none would forget what they'd left behind. Art Gilkey's name would never again be just a line in a roster. It would echo across glaciers, etched into the frozen heart of K2. They had beaten the mountain not by conquering it, but by carrying a man's spirit off of it. Back home, they told a story not just of how Art Gilkey died, but how he chose to die so they could live. His family received the journal, and it became legend in mountaineering circles. Years later, climbers built the Gilkey Memorial, a ring of plaques honoring those lost to K2. Art's was a first. The mountain still claims lives, but none as willingly as his. Each year, climbers stop at the memorial, placing a glove, a stone, a prayer. His name is whispered before every ascent, not out of fear, but reverence. Gilkey didn't reach the summit, but he reached something far greater: immortality in the hearts of those who dared the same path. His final climb remains one of the most powerful acts of mountaineering sacrifice ever recorded. Case closed, not as tragedy, but as legend.